Hey guys, Just Nerds here. We're back with another discussion. Today we're going to be discussing about Marvel and DC. And so for Marvel and DC, we're going to be talking about each of their respective areas and how they're doing in video games, TV shows, and movies. And so we're just going to talk about each subject and how which one's doing better in each one, and maybe just overall at the end. So let's start with video games, guys. First there's Elijah,
Hi.
and then Blake.
Hey,
Okay, so let's start with video games.
what about him?
Okay, so how do you think Marvel has been doing with their games recently?
Nothing too significant, really. I mean, they put some games out there and some, solid titles out there. One games that look like they're going to do really, really well, but, they end up just kind of being, good, but nothing spectacular or over the top. They're at least putting titles out there, and that's solid, I guess.
Well, Experiment Shattered Dimensions was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but it only has some potential. And some people said that the Nowhere Spider-Man was just kind of a knockoff of Batman in its stealth mode. But it was interesting to see Spider-Man have different takes and plays different versions of Spider-Man, which was really cool and interesting. But I think Spider-Man's capable of doing a lot more, if you ask me.
Would you say Spider-Man's like their most prominent person in video games?
In video games, yes.
Would you say they're good, like overall?
Better than the other games that they usually make. I mean, Spider-Man's kind of one of those characters that it's not super hard to make a game out of him because he's pretty, I guess you could say, dynamic in the gaming field. You can kind of just move him around wherever you want, and he'll kind of just, fall into place. Like, he can be a stealth because Spider-Man does do some stealth. He can be, a full-out platformer because Spider-Man is also a crime fighter. He can do, pretty much anything. Free roam, for sure. Spider-Man's been through a lot in game-wise, and I think he's a great character for a video game.
Yeah, I just think that like their games were just a lot better like back then. Because back then their games were better. Like they had like Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Did you play that?
No, I never really played any of the superhero games because they had so many. It just seemed like they didn't really put too much effort into them.
No, like Hulk Ultimate Destruction. That was really good. It was like a free roam. You could just do anything you want. And then X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I did play that game. That game was okay. It was pretty fun, but I mean it was nothing like I said, nothing super spectacular. It's a fun game. It's a great game to play. Definitely encourage trying it and playing it out, playing through it. But it's nothing on the top 10 charts. It's not that great.
Did you ever play Deadpool though?
I did play Deadpool.
How was that?
A lot of people gave it a lot of crap for being bad, and it wasn't that bad. It's not as bad as everybody says. You just have to look at it in the right light. It's Deadpool. He's kind of a character that you can't take 100% seriously because he's so slapstick in a way, I guess you could say. I just think that people need to look at it in a different light. And so it's good, and it's definitely worth playing through, and it's a lot of fun. The dialogue's hilarious. The voices are great. As far as gameplay goes, sometimes it gets a little challenging and a little bit annoying, but it's definitely still worth a playthrough.
So you just say overall they're doing okay.
Overall, they're doing okay.
But not bad though. What?
Did you ever play The Amazing Spider-Man, the new one that came out?
The Amazing Spider-Man? I can't say that I did. I wanted to, and I looked up a few reviews, and I wanted
really
to try it out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was good, and I've heard a lot of great things about it, but like I said again, I feel like they're trying to turn Spider-Man into Batman, and Spider-Man's not Batman.
The big spider
That's
sense
just
stuff.
the gameplay.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like he's a complete knockoff or anything like that. I mean, I think Spider-Man. If you're gonna do a game about Spider-Man, you need to just mix it up a little bit. Make him Spider-Man, not Batman.
Well, that's what they did with the newest one, The Amazing Spider-Man. He wasn't anywhere near Batman.
Yeah,
he was who he was
just,
in the movie.
It's just a type of combat. That's all it was.
Yeah, but that's just.
It's not a common type of combat, really. The countering symbols and everything above it and everything. It's not super common.
But it's not like Batman like invented it though.
And plus, it makes more sense because he has spiders.
I'm not saying Batman invented it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying Batman is kind of what made that a definitive kind of style of combat. And also the stealth mode was kind of like Batman with the whole, silent takedowns and stuff like that. I mean, when you look at it, there's a lot of things that you can draw, connections to. Oh, that's just like Batman, or oh, that's just like Spider-Man. But, I mean, there were differences. I'm not saying that they're two of a kind. But The Amazing Spider-Man, a good game, solid game. It's fun to play, but nothing super extraordinary, nothing great.
I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, but the only thing I don't like is that like when Batman did it, people praise it, for its combat and everything. It's good. I really like it. It's really fun. But when Spider-Man did like the same combat, everyone said it's just repetitive and everything.
Well, I think that's smart because that's what's selling. So
I know, but it's just like Spider-Man does it, it's repetitive, but Batman does it, it's not. I understand because Spider-Man did it after, but it's like the same thing. Don't think they should say that it's really repetitive. It's the same thing, and they praise it for Batman.
I think if they go in the same direction, they're going with Amazing Spider-Man.
The reason they praise it
get
for
better.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm finished.
No,
You just talked right over me, but I finished.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to.
Beautiful.
But what I'm saying is that the reason they praise it for Batman is because Batman you can do so much more. You have not only gadgets, not only do you have combat takedowns, disarms, special moves you can use.
But like that's the
There's
main
more
thing,
of a-
though. It's mainly just like punching and countering.
It's more
That's
than that,
Spider-Man
actually.
too, but he has webs instead of gadgets.
Yeah,
So.
but I mean, I'm not saying that Spider-Man's is bad at all. I'm not saying it's a complete knockoff or anything. I'm just saying that it's out there. I mean, I think Batman's just has taken it and completely just improved it. I mean, I think it's just awesome.
Okay, so then let's move on to DC then. DC games, Blake. What do you think?
In my opinion, they're definitely doing a lot better than Marvel. I mean, I'm not saying that Marvel's games should be totally blacklisted and just thrown off of your list if that's what you're looking for. Definitely go out and try them and play them because they're a lot of fun. But I think DC has more, not only higher ratings, but more accessibility, I guess you can say, more playability, I think.
In what way?
I understand him because Marvel's
No,
put so much games out there that you can't always find them, while DC's only started putting out a lot of games.
I don't think it's so much quantity. I think it's just quality. You have great games like Batman Arkham series. You have Injustice. You have all the Lego games they've done, which they did do Lego Marvel Superheroes, and that's awesome too. That's a great game, and I really, really look forward to trying that out. And but I think when you kind of look at DC's games, they're just able to do so much more because I feel like they have a lot more going for them. Like, it's hard to make a game for Superman because Superman is a very, very difficult character to do anything with. Movies, shows, whatever. But when you have a character like Batman who can pretty much do anything you ask him to, he can fight aliens, he can fight whatever. But, like, I think when you have him in a game setting, he makes a great character because he can give him complex stories, great villains, really stealthy kind of combat. Batman's just a very dynamic character, like Spider-Man. And I think that Rocksteady has done a fantastic job of taking Batman, putting him in a great universe, and just having a ton of fun with the story, with the characters, with the combat, with the environments around him, and it's just been an awesome game.
So besides Batman, you said Injustice as well. Did you really like that?
Injustice is awesome for me because it is like the superhero game that I've been waiting for. Almost all of us would say that it's pretty amazing to see superheroes pretty much beat the crap out of each other and then throw themselves through walls and do amazing super moves. It's pretty awesome. I really like the game. It's been getting great ratings. The DLC is awesome. The costumes are awesome. I think NetherRealm did a fantastic job of, not making it exactly like Mortal Kombat, but they did a great job of making it a step up, I think, personally. Thought the game was great. Thought it was awesome. Definitely worth playing. Fun multiplayer. And I thought Injustice was awesome.
So for right now, you say DC is just destroying Marvel with their games.
I wouldn't say destroying.
I would.
I don't think so. For me, I could kind of care less who's winning. I just want to see great games.
Yeah, but we're just talking about who do we think is doing better.
Well, then I guess if you're asking me...
It's not a competition, we're just wondering.
Well, I know. But I guess from what I know, it would be DC.
DC?
They just seem to be having a better grip on their games. When you have Warner Brothers Montreal, Rocksteady, and NetherRealm under your belt, you can do a lot. So
cool. Okay, so let's go to TV shows then. You two, I know, watch a lot of TV shows that they have for DC and Marvel. But let's start for DC for right now.
I think while Marvel has been doing a lot of movies, which we'll get to later, I think DC's done a good job focusing on TV. You had great shows like the Justice League, the old Batman series, not the old one, but the Batman the Animated Series. And you have Arrow, which is on right now. They've really done well with like the animated stuff, and also with Arrow, the real person stuff. They really, I think they've really taken it. Well, we'll get to that later. Actually, I think they've done a great job just because they have so many characters in it. In DC, that are like prominent characters. I think they've done well with their shows, giving equal time to everyone. So I would say DC's doing a great job with TVs.
Yeah. It's just really cool that like they just been expanding their universe through TV shows, like Arrow. Now they're doing Flash, then doing Gotham as well. It's just like really cool. Like I think you guys said earlier, right? That you guys like how they're doing that through the shows.
Which is the advantage over movies because movies take years and years to come out, while TV shows come up with idea, but you can introduce all these characters. While movie you have this.
And plus, there's like since it's a show, there's more time to like connect to them, I guess.
Yeah.
Than a 2-hour or 3-hour movie.
Yeah. So they've done really well with that. Like to the Justice League and Young Justice, what I liked was how they gave different like spotlight stuff to different characters. It was like the main characters, but then you got to focus in on each one of them because you had the time to until they canceled Young Justice. But hey,
yeah, we don't like to talk about that, Elijah. It's okay. It's okay.
I think that brings to like the next point when you have a great show like Young Justice and the Justice League and Batman the Animated Series, which in my opinion is as good as a cartoon you can get, or a cartoon series, I guess you can say.
Quite.
And I think it's kind of hard to like beat the animated series because it's really, really good. It's just such a solid show. You have everything you could ever ask for. And I mean, I think it's kind of when people look at that show and they say, we want that, but we want something better. It's really, really hard for these writers and these producers to find something that's actually better. And you get shows like Young Justice and the Green Lantern, the animated series, and then Beware the Batman. And, it's difficult to top it because, Batman the animated series was like the defining cartoon show. And I think that we need to kind of just let these writers and these directors do what they want to do and, let them have their fun, let them do what they should do, try their best. And, if we don't like it, then we don't like it. But like if we like it, we should at least give them a chance. I think we should at least give them opportunity to work in the universe.
But what I liked was what DC did. You had Batman the animated series, and then you had Superman the animated series, and then you get introduced to this Justice League, which is the same voice actors that were in those shows, which I really liked. So it was like in the family, so it was cool to see the progression. You have Batman by himself, then Robin comes in, then Batgirl, and then another Robin, and you get to see them in the Justice League and all those movies. And it's really awesome to see how they expanded just for Batman the Animated Series to the movies they had and Justice League. And I wish they would have done something like that with Young Justice. You had Young Justice. I wish some characters might have gotten a spin-off or just something based off that. But, it didn't happen.
But like right now, DC, there's only Teen Titans Go and Beware the Batman, right?
At the moment, yeah.
Yeah? How's Beware the Batman?
Beware the Batman is actually not that bad. Everybody thinks it's horrible, but that's because it's comparing to Batman the Animated Series, like I said. And, I don't think we're ever going to really have a series that's going to ultimately top that because, once again, it's very difficult to top a series that's been going on for so long, that's affected so many people, and that's been such a great character. And I think it's hard to accept that, Batman's not going to be as, I guess, prominent as he was in the animated series because it's a little bit difficult to, work off of that and make things different because the animated series touched on every inch of the universe that I can think of. You had Superman come in a few times, you had, other guest stars, you had every single villain, every
Green Lantern in there.
You did have Green Lantern in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, and I think it's difficult for people to just kind of, put that aside and see this as a new Batman. Because we are so used to the animated series. And I think we should at least give the series a chance. Maybe give it a watch, at least. I know it's on, the edge of cancellation, and I know that they just announced that they're going to most likely bring it back. So I think we should at least give it the opportunity to sprout instead of just cutting it right off before it even has a chance to let it go.
Speaking of Batman shows, did you ever watch The Batman?
I watched a few episodes of that, and I can say that it was really good.
Yeah, that was.
I did like it.
Yeah,
I couldn't watch the whole series, but I watched a few episodes I watched about the whole first season, and I was really impressed by it. It did a good job.
Yeah, they definitely did good on the writing for that show. Especially Clayface for that show. They did what they did for Clayface in the Batman with what they did with Two-Face in the original one. To really empathize with them, so that they connected with Batman, then they became a villain, so that you cared. That was really good. So for Marvel, let's go with that then.
Marvel, it's hard to judge because their TV shows have mostly been on Nick and Disney, and those are mostly kid shows. But I think they've done well with the Ultimate Spider-Man. You know, I like that show a lot. I think they had some good Avenger shows. I like the Avenger shows. But what they've done mostly is the old stuff. The old stuff with DC was just Batman. They had the old X-Men series. They had the old Spider-Mans. I mean, there was a couple Spider-Mans. So they really did well with the old stuff. Lately, hasn't been as good. That's because we've been focusing on movies. I mean, you have Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which has actually been a pleasant surprise. Coming into it, I thought it would just be a fun show to watch, but as it's progressed more and more, it's interesting to see how the movie universe affects the TV universe, and it's interesting to see that point of view, how they're cleaning up, superhero stuff, and they're really dealing with the stuff that you don't see in the movies.
So you're really surprised then by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this good, Some people just call it, like, my brother called it the Avengers with no superpowers, which I thought was dumb. But, I mean, I thought it was really good. I thought what they did with it was cool. I like how it's just them fighting. It shows how, regular people can really stand up and, yeah.
They kind of just like behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes. I thought what they did with Coulson, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be weird, but I like how they handled it, and I like how they've really dug in and showed the effects of what he went through, and really got into his psyche and stuff like that.
So, what do you think, Blake?
I think it's a good show. I think it's, definitely have a lot of potential, and they've really banked on that potential. They've really taken a show that kind of seemed like it wasn't really going to go too far, and, they definitely pushed the element of superheroes, and, I think it's pretty cool that they've included, S.H.I.E.L.D. a little bit more, and I think it's good. I also think that, the cartoons and the animated series, I guess, that they're doing is pretty decent. I have to say Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was probably the greatest Marvel animated show I've ever seen.
What about Spectacular Spider-Man, Blake?
Spectacular Spider-Man was another one up there. That was definitely awesome. I wish I owned it so I could watch it all over again. That was probably, up there with Avengers, and then,
Iron Man Armored Adventures, what do you think of that?
Iron Man Armored Adventures is... It's not really... For me, it's good. It's good, and it's worth watching, but it's not really capturing me as much as animated series is, Young Justice, Spectacular Spider-Man. I'm not really turning it on and being like, I want to watch this.
They had a cool concept, though, putting them in high school and stuff like that.
They did have a cool concept, and I think it's kind of cool to see, Tony Stark, young kid, but I think it's just like, I don't know. It's just not really capturing me so much. I think it's just because, it's not really...
It was on such an obscure channel. I mean, Nicktoons, not everyone has it, so...
No, I don't think it's because it was on an obscure channel. I think Nickelodeon is doing fantastic stuff, but that's a completely different thing. But, I mean, it's not really so much that it's on a weird channel. It's so much that it's kind of just an awkward show. I just felt like, I mean...
There's something's wrong with it, but you don't know kind of exactly what it is.
Yeah, Iron Man for me should kind of just stay a man. Rich kid, but I mean, I'm not, I'm just not too big on the whole Tony Stark high school. I mean, it's like, let's just take Spider-Man, put him in the suit of armor, take off his powers, and let's...
But that wasn't really Spider-Man. His personality.
Spider-Man. Oh, no, I'm not the same personality, but I'm just saying, smart kid, suit of armor. I mean, I don't know. I just don't really find it too capturing.
Would you say the best TV series that is based off a superhero right now is Arrow?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Even though I think that there's some flaws in that, but I do think it's a great show.
Well, of course, I don't think there's any show.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it does have its flaws, its moments here and there, but it is a good
But
show.
they definitely improved over season 1, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was cool. Season 1, you had all the coolness of superhero stuff, but the acting was really cheesy. And then season 2, the acting, in my opinion, has gotten better, and they've introduced all this new superhero stuff. And as you're watching it, it's really cool to actually put a face to the character you've been reading. I mean, the cartoons, that stuff's cool, but to see it in real life and see the people how they would really look, I think they've done a great job casting with the people. I think Stephen Amell plays a good Arrow. Manu Bennett, who plays Slade, is freaking awesome. I mean, you got good casting there, and it's been really cool to actually see them in real life. And yeah, they haven't been really true to the comics, but I think it's cool how they've been playing with it and how they've been introducing characters and how they've developed people.
But a lot of hope is on Gotham, really. But that's on Fox, so we don't know right now.
Firefly.
Yeah, don't about that. It hurts too much. But at least for DC and Marvel, biggest problem would be just that whenever they have a really good show, they end up canceling it. Because DC, they had Young Justice, great, but then they canceled that. And then Marvel, they canceled Spectacular Spider-Man. then replace it with Ultimate Spider-Man. Not saying it's bad. It's just, it doesn't really compare to Spectacular Spider-Man. And then with Avengers or Mightiest Heroes, they replaced that with Avengers Assembled.
But I like, in the words of Paul Dini, who wrote a lot of Batman the Animated Series, and he even did work on Ultimate Spider-Man and other animated series like Justice League and Superman. He said that it all boils down to marketing, and that the reason that Green Lantern, the animated series, and Young Justice were canceled, and like Spectacular Spider-Man, the reason shows get canceled is because it's not that the show is not being watched and it doesn't have an audience. It's because the toys and the stuff in the aisles that you see at Target or Walmart are not selling. And that's why they have to kind of dumb shows down to appeal to younger kids who want to buy toys and action figures and stuff like that. And when you don't have the profits from that and you can't reap from that benefit, you can no longer sustain to keep the show alive, to pay the actors, to pay the animators, to pay anything, to pay to keep the show on the air. So it is sad that shows like that have to get canceled, and they're just growing and they're just starting to develop into great stories. And I'm not saying go out and buy action figures just so you can support, your show on TV. But I am saying that sometimes it's just shows are victim to circumstance, unfortunately. And you know what? We have to just kind of accept that and kind of sustain this sense of optimism when it comes to television. And just hope that they can improve on their mistakes that they've made and create shows and just keep making new characters and bringing into new light, I think it's...
Yeah, but...
Well, that's what Marvel has the benefit of. I mean, you have mostly Spider-Man, which is just like a kid character, That's why, in my opinion, I like DC better, because I feel as though Marvel has been playing to the right audience. They've been playing to like the little kids, the 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds that are going to want to buy that stuff. But DC, I think, has taken a darker approach with their cartoons. I mean, there's some moments where you can laugh, but it's mostly, if you're watching it for the content, while kids...
Like Teen Titans Go.
Oh... That we don't talk about that. That doesn't count.
That's a good show, though.
It's funny, but I'm talking about serious stuff.
Yeah, but they're not redoing that much really right now, though.
I'm saying in the past. That's in my opinion. That's why I think they're better, because I like the content part of it.
It's like, Marvel did the same thing too. It's just that now they are appealing more.
Now they are.
Because like the original Spider-Man, 1997, right, or 1990s, and then Spectacular Spider-Man. But yeah, like you said, they are dumbing down, which I don't like, because Spectacular Spider-Man was great, and then.
But Spider-Man's that character where he's going to crack jokes throughout the show and do silly stuff.
Yeah, but there's an extent, like, Ultimate Spider-Man, they really push that forward, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'm saying he doesn't do that.
But DC don't really have that. I mean, you had that in Teen Titans, which I thought was good. I thought it was a good blend. But, like, in Young Justice, I mean, kids didn't really buy that because it was more for the action, for, like, the content to see all this cool stuff happening. They didn't really have a lot of jokes, per se, a lot of... stuff make you laugh. But you have Spider-Man who can get serious, has a serious story, but he's a guy who's going to crack jokes and be very sarcastic, and kids are going to laugh at that.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elijah.
Yeah, no problem.
So overall, who do you think's doing better at TV shows, Blake?
At the moment, DC Comics. That's probably just because, or DC Entertainment, I guess you can say. And I think that's just because Marvel has some shows out there and they're really good. And but I just think DC has sort of a step up above them because they've just had more success in their shows.
Yeah, I agree. Especially how they're expanding their universe now.
And I would like to see some more shows like Young Justice come out. I would like to see some more on DC Nation, on Cartoon Network. I'd really like to see, at least 3 or 4 shows, not just Teen Titans Go anymore. I'd like to see something more. So.
Yeah, and they need to really fix the time slot that they put their shows in.
Yeah.
Because, like, Saturday mornings, not everyone watches that.
Well, they've done that with Teen Titans Go. I mean, it's on later in the afternoons now.
I know, but, like, Young Justice, they kept that in the morning.
Terrible time slot.
People watched that a lot more if it was, like, in the afternoon after school, stuff like that.
Well, because you have the Saturday morning cartoons.
I know, that's why. I know, but that's why.
But DC Nation, I think what they could have done was, like, right before Toonami, have like a DC Nation or something like that.
Yeah, that could have worked.
Yeah,
like right.
But
before
they did that. They did that with the Justice League thing. I think they had it in Toonami for a while.
Yeah, like while they're waiting for Toonami, could have watched those shows, stuff like that. Yeah, that could have worked. So you also pick DC?
I think right now at this current moment, I'd say Marvel probably has the upper hand, but DC is really close and probably gonna beat it in the next year or two with the new shows that are coming out. Just because I think Marvel has more fans and has making more profits. But in my opinion, I'd say DC has the better quality.
Yeah, I'd say DC, just because how they're building everything up right now. Just like mainly focusing on that.
Which has been really cool because you see it throughout. You've been able to see it like building for the Flash and then maybe another show.
Yeah.
But you have Gotham coming. You still have DC Nation on Cartoon Network. But I think it's really cool to see what they're doing.
Okay. So let's do the final topic: movies. Elijah, you want to say anything first?
This movies currently right now, Marvel is absolutely dominating. But if you look back, DC was. I mean, this is a tough subject because they have both put out great movies and they have both put out terrible movies.
Yes.
But man, I mean, this is probably the most important subject. I mean, because this is where the big money comes from. This is what everyone waits so long to see. This is like what makes fans. I mean, you're seeing the comic book heroes you grew up reading, that you're still reading, put to life on the big screen.
Well, then let's just start with Marvel first.
Marvel, I think when they first started years ago with the first couple Spider-Mans, they were doing good. I like them. Well, 1 and 2, then 3 came and then. But right now what they did, I thought what they've done is amazing. They started with Marvel Studios who didn't have the big names, Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. I think what they've done is great because they had those cool characters. They just weren't as big as ones that haven't been already done. I think they've chosen the right characters to take with what they did with Iron Man, the first one, with such a small budget compared to what they have now. I think that was amazing, and how they've built it up. This 5-year, 10-year plan or whatever it is, I think has just been genius. I mean, each movie is building to the next movie, has a place in the overall scheme of things. I think what Joss Whedon has done has just been awesome.
Like their planning and everything, you're right. When Iron Man first came out, it was just amazing. And like at the end, when they said the Avengers Initiative, people knew that this was gonna be a big thing. Since that, they've just been like doing movie after movie, like you said.
Yeah.
Like I really think they've just done great with like what they have. Like you said, they don't have Spider-Man, they don't have Fantastic Four yet. They're still doing great.
Well, and then you can talk about Spider-Man because that is part of the Marvel universe.
That's true.
I think what they're doing now, what they're doing right now is really smart. They've seen what Jess has done with all the Avenger movies and all stuff like that, and I think they're building. They have the Sinister Six coming up and stuff like that. They're rebooting Fantastic Four. They're still doing X-Men movies. I think what Jess did, he really pushed Marvel Studios through, and all the other Marvel movies looked at that. Like Sony, it was like, okay, we need to rethink this. And I think it's been really cool. I mean, you're getting to see just awesome characters and building for the next step. I mean, the Wolverine at the end, I thought that was really smart when he's just going through the airport and you see Professor X and Magneto setting up for the new movie. I didn't see that coming. That was pretty awesome. And I think overall Marvel has just been awesome. I mean, sure you can complain, like I've complained about how long it takes for the movies to come out, but that just shows how much they care and how much they want it to succeed.
Like Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers 2 just keeps getting pushed back, which got me mad. But seeing Captain America 2, which sort of is like leading up, but leaves a lot of questions for the Avengers 2, has just like re-pumped me up for Avengers 2. So I think what they've done is smart. Like each movie gets you pumped up for the next one.
But like you said, not just Marvel Studios, but Sony and Fox. They're also just starting to build their universes as well. Like not just Marvel, like Sony, like Mark Webb, he's really just building up the universe right now with Spider-Man, like you said, Sinister Six. Then you can do a Venom movie as well, which I'm really excited about. And then Fox, like you said, X-Men. That's gonna be great, hopefully.
Yeah. I think what they tried to do with the first 3 Spider-Man is what they try to do now, but they just didn't
They
do it as well.
Kind of rushed, especially number 3.
I mean, because the old Spider-Man, the first 2 were enjoyable to watch, and the third one, that just like almost ruined everything for me. It was just like, what did you do?
Yeah, especially like at the end of Spider-Man 2, they showed that Harry's gonna become Green Goblin, and we're excited about that. And Sandman and Green Goblin could have been really good as their own movie, and maybe hinted at Venom. Like you just see maybe like the symbiote just crash down. Maybe that's it.
I think that's my biggest fear for them is Spider-Man 2 because they got the villains and Spider-Man 3 had all the villains.
Yeah,
but I'm sure they're gonna do better.
It's just like Mark Webb stated that he knows from the past mistakes. He's seen what made that bad. He's just like learning off of that. Like even though he is introducing a lot of characters, it's really more about building up the universe for when he's done with the trilogy, so that when another director comes, they can just keep building off of that.
I think that's what Marvel Studios has done. They started with Iron Man and Avengers, but they brought in all these directors who have taken that specific character and sort of made it their own and did their own interpretation, which I think is great.
Yeah, like these different directors in Marvel Studios, then Joss Whedon did Avengers.
Yeah.
He was able to do it because all those directors just helped him out.
And Blake, any comments?
Personally, I think at the moment Marvel is winning. But I do think that there is a risk in expanding too much, like them announcing that they have movie plans till 2020, whatever, you know what I mean? There's sort of a risk when you just keep throwing movies out into the theaters. I think because it starts becoming quality over quantity in some way.
You mean quantity over quality?
That's what I didn't I just say that?
No, you said quality.
Oh, quantity over quality, then I guess.
Well, what I hope they do is I hope if they keep making movies that they're all not going to be related. I hope they start break off, because if they keep relating it, then we're just we get it. Yeah, we get it. A lot of Easter egg.
Yeah, even though people want Spider-Man to be in the Avengers,
if they introduce a character in a movie and he has a small part, or they just Easter egg hit at him, that's cool, and he has his own movie. But if they keep bringing in all these characters, that's cool. But I mean, eventually, you just gotta let characters be their own.
Yeah, but I'm just confident Marvel right now because they built up from
they've proven themselves.
Yeah, almost nothing. Yeah, they've proven themselves. They really feel like they know what they're doing, and so I don't. There is a chance, I admit, that they can do quantity over quality. But right now, I think they are trying to focus on quality right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. I do honestly think that Marvel is doing a great job. Captain America just came out. Definitely a great movie. It was awesome. Enjoyed every minute of it. I did. But, I do think that DC has a chance of coming back. Definitely, because they're still making money and they're still, they're right there behind them. A lot of people think that Marvel is so far ahead and that DC is never going to come back, but the fact remains that DC is actually right behind them.
Well, what I think is really...
Well, are you still talking about Marvel right now?
Yeah.
Okay, no, talk about...
Well, I think what Marvel has for it is, DC put out the early Batmans and Supermans, which Marvel has, which I think is really smart. They've waited until now so that they can really bring what was in the comics to life, the spaceships and the suits of armor that Iron Man has and all that stuff. I think that's what they've done smart with it. And, this isn't really talking about DC, but I think DC has sort of done that, but they have characters that don't really need all the special effects, but Marvel does. I think it's been really smart that they've waited, and I think it's been really cool how they've done it to really see, Iron Man fly, building the actual suit, especially Captain America 2 with the 3-4 giant helicarriers, how many there were. I mean, they've really brought it to life.
Yeah, they've learned from their own movies, like the original Hulk, which...
Look, another point, they've built off their mistakes. You had the old Spider-Mans, and then you had the first Hulk, which was not good, and then you had the Incredible Hulk, which wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was a good movie, with Edward Norton. I liked that movie, and it just shows that they've built off their mistakes.
Yeah, they didn't improve Hulk and the Avengers than the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
So let's just move on to DC. Blake, since we know you love DC, how about you tell us your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, I think they're definitely going to be able to make a comeback, especially with their announcement of the Justice League and Batman vs. Superman. I think Marvel might always be somewhat ahead because they just have already gone that far of a head start. When you have Avengers, which an opening weekend at 4,349 theaters, it had $207 million already made, and that's opening weekend. And then Lifetime, it made $623 million. And that's, that you can't really touch the Avengers right now. But I think, Marvel has been taking their time. When Marvel was releasing Daredevil and Elektra and all these other movies, DC kind of stayed silent for a little bit. There wasn't really too much going on that was big and important. And then, I think they did have a learning experience from Green Lantern. And I think that they've definitely been able to make a good comeback, especially with the Dark Knight trilogy. That's a great trilogy. Christopher Nolan did a fantastic job with it. Christian Bale was a great Batman. And I think Marvel is awesome. I'm not saying DC's any better or Marvel's any better. I'm just saying that, Marvel is ahead, DC's right behind, and they're both doing incredible things with their universes and incredible things with their movies and their actors and all their stories they're doing. I think it's incredible, and I think, Man of Steel is going to be a good bridge onto Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. So, personally, I think that, they're going to make some great movies, both of them, and I'm excited to see what's next.
Like me and Elijah said, the other day, we were saying just how DC seems like they're just rushing right now. They're just trying to play catch up to Marvel. They did Man of Steel, and now they announced Batman vs Superman, and they're gonna lead that up to the Justice League, right? And they're also putting in Wonder Woman. We don't know how much she's gonna be in it, but they are putting her in there.
Which I think this is probably the fastest thing they've ever done with a superhero team up, because Marvel took their time to put all the superheroes together. And this is you have Man of Steel, and then they're throwing in these new characters that you haven't really seen yet. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how they do. And I will say this. The one thing that I think maybe not hurts DC, but definitely doesn't help him is that Christopher Nolan, he's this big-time director. He's directed all this other stuff, And he's overseeing DC, which I think is great. But yeah, Joss Whedon, who directed stuff, but this was his big break, and he's devoted to everything. Marvel Studios is his. And so Christopher Nolan really made DC movies, but he also has his other stuff.
Yeah, he's still making movies.
Yeah. So I think Christopher Nolan is...
Yeah.
He wouldn't do a bad DC movie.
Christopher Nolan's not overseeing everything.
Oh, he isn't?
No, Jeff Johns is. Jeff
Oh.
Johns has to oversee. He's the creative officer of DC Comics.
Oh, well, then...
Well, I mean, Christopher Nolan, David S. Goyer.
Well, he has his
Zack
hand.
Snyder.
He has his hand in most.
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean,
I think that's more what he meant.
Yeah, that's where
okay,
he has
that's
his hand in everything.
Exactly. David S. Goyer, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder. They're all three of them great directors, great writers, and personally, I think they're doing great stuff. I personally really like Man of Steel. I thought it was a good branch into it, and maybe I don't think they're really rushing. Because why would they move Batman vs Superman from 2015 to 2016 and push everything back?
They're not putting a movie in between that though.
Yeah, I know.
I think that's what I meant.
I just think that would only help to perpetuate the argument that they're trying to, do this right. They don't want to screw up. And I think when it all kind of boils down to is the fact that people are kind of seeing DC, Superman wasn't funny, Superman wasn't this, Man of Steel wasn't this. And I think it's kind of this argument DC doesn't have happy superheroes. They're not happy, symbol-wearing people. They're pretty distressed. Why would you make a movie like Batman The Dark Knight, where there's a few jokes in there, some good solid laughs, but I mean, when it comes down to it, you have some pretty dark characters and some pretty demented stuff in there. And I think that, it kind of goes with the fans, that they need to separate these two and distinguish that there are differences between the two companies as a whole, and their characters, and the way they're going to do movies.
Well, I'm not saying that they are going to do bad, because I hope that they will do good.
Christopher Nolan wouldn't. I don't think he would do a bad DC movie. He's not. I don't think he's gonna let that happen. But with Batman versus Superman, that thing, I think you have two choices. It's either going to be a really epic movie, or it's going to be a fail, because they're putting everything into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might have a chance of being an okay movie, but my hopes, personally, I think it's going to be a really good movie. But if they don't do it right. Because they're throwing Wonder Woman and Batman in without, anything on them. I mean, they're throwing them in there, so it's going to be interesting to see.
It's not that they're doing bad, it's that they're putting all their chips on the table right now. Like what Marvel did, they were careful with Avengers. They did Iron Man, and then slowly did, Incredible Hulk and more. But here, they're trying to, go straight in, which could be great.
Which, I think if you look at a different perspective, I mean, they have so many characters in DC that they wouldn't have enough time to do. Yeah. Movies on individual.
But I think that's good because honestly, I don't really want to see DC do the Marvel thing. I don't think it would be good for them because I think when it kind of boils down to DC, everybody knows the Justice League, the Avengers. Not a lot of people were familiar with that. I honestly,
which I think that helped them because,
and I do. That definitely helped because you could make Captain America and be like, look at these guys. These guys are awesome. I think when Marvel was first starting out, everybody was like, oh, Spider-Man. Every Spider-Man was the face of it.
I hardly knew anything about Iron Man.
Yeah.
Captain America, no one really knew. It was all these obscure superheroes that sort of got lost. And then, but that's the problem with the Justice League. You have so many big time superheroes in the Justice League, and everybody knows them. Those are the biggest superheroes on the planet. Mm-hmm. So people are going to go in there and scrutinizing every little detail because it's not what the comics were. It's not how they've been.
And plus, just because, the characters, not everyone reads the comics also.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but, just because you know them doesn't mean you can't establish them in their own things.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think that's what Man of Steel helped to do. It made Superman, different from the comics, but since kept him Superman.
Well, I guess,
And I think the good thing is because they're going in order of which these characters were made. You know what I mean? Superman was the very first superhero, Batman the second, Batman vaguely the second, and then Wonder Woman. They're putting their three biggest characters onto one movie, which I don't think is actually a humongous problem, and I don't think that means that they're rushing. I think that it just means that they're just trying to establish, we already know Superman, we already know Batman. Not many people know Wonder Woman for sure, but I'm sure they're going to explain that. So, I mean, you don't really need... It's kind of one of those things where it's you don't really need to explain these characters because... you already know they are.
Well, you
think
can say
what
that
the
about
pro-
Spider-Man though,
Oh,
with
yeah,
the Amazing
and
Spider-Man.
Exactly.
I think what
And
the problem.
I think they did a good job with. Sorry, I think they did a good job with Spider-Man. I think. But I mean, everybody knows he got bit by a spider, so they had to kind of switch that up because the original Spider-Man did that. And I do think the Amazing Spider-Man was a great new take on it. I really do. But everybody kind of knew, kid gets bit by a spider, gets superpowers, stuff like that. Everybody knew that, but they still wanted to explain it. I don't think Batman and Superman, they're going to have like a small, like maybe smaller origin story. This is my opinion. This is a theory. Because we already know who they are. They've already been around for a lot longer than I have to say Spider-Man. But people still love Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the only thing is, it's like Wonder Woman. I'm sure she's not going to have a huge part in the movie. But I think what everyone's worried about is you're throwing this new Batman, not Christian Bale, this new Batman in there. And sure, his origin story, but this is like the first time anyone's ever done this. Like they haven't set it up to like a superhero combination movie. I think that's what I'm worried about. Because it's different with villains, because villains hardly ever get, like, a background story, It's like, you see it, but it's not like they get a whole thing. So that's what I'm worried about. I think it would be really cool just to see them. But like I said, it's like, really right now, this movie is like, the future of DC depends on the Batman-Superman movie. Because if it's a piece of crap, that's just like, why would I go see the Avengers? Because why would I go see Justice League? Because the two biggest main characters of the Justice League, Batman and Superman, I didn't like their combination. So,
I'm not really too worried about the project because, let's face it, it's going to make tons of money.
No,
Maybe not as big as the Avengers, of course, but
But that also helps them that you're throwing in two big superheroes,
yeah.
Because that's never been done before. Two giant superheroes like Batman and Superman, which are arguably number one and number two on like everyone. Even if you know nothing about comic books, you definitely know Batman and Superman. Mm-hmm. That's probably what's gonna help because Avengers made a ton of money, but that's like all these superheroes coming together, and you've been waiting for it. This is like right after the first new Superman came out, they announced it, so it's like this is the first time it's ever really been done.
But I'm kind of glad that they're doing it because nobody really wants to see a Man of Steel 2. You know what I mean?
But,
and nobody really
a lot of people want to see Man of Steel 2.
Like what?
Well, this is pretty
because like Superman, people say that Superman, he was established as Superman, but he hasn't grown in the role.
Superman, he wasn't Superman until the end of the movie.
I know, like he had the role of Superman, but he hasn't really.
I think that's why they want a Man of Steel 2 because they want to see him as Superman.
Yeah, like they want to fully establish him as his own. I'm not saying he wasn't established as a character, but they want him to be established into the world and everything.
I want to see his acting chops, kids.
I honestly believe that everybody just wants to see DC do a Marvel thing. And I think that's kind of a problem.
Well, I think it's just because they want it to be successful.
But
No, I agree with you. I don't want to see another Batman movie. Because if you do another Batman movie, you're taking the 3 Dark Knight tropes and just sort of like throwing them out. It's like, oh, we just did that. Screw you, we're doing a new Batman.
it's for me, it's kind of like, well, like, let's.
I like the take on it. I like the take on it. An older Batman coming in. I like that. I think it's
inspiration from the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah,
which is definitely one of the greatest pieces of comic literature ever.
It's gonna be interesting to see how Ben Affleck. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill. I hope they give him more lines instead of him just staring out into space with the shirt off.
Actually,
Eisenberg.
Argued, but I'm not going to do that right now. So.
Eisenberg is Lex Luthor too.
Eisenberg. I like Jesse Eisenberg. I think that's gonna be really interesting.
And this new Lex Luthor.
That's like the biggest hesitation. Like I really like him. I love him as an actor.
I think looking at it, you're gonna be like, "Whoa, that's sketchy." I think it's a great move.
I think at first glance, everybody's gonna be Marvel's gonna destroy it.
Because
chance. But
Nolan. What DC right now is doing is that they're taking the inspiration from the comics, but they're making it their own. Like with Lex Luthor, they're pretty much taking the character from the comics, based on the comics, where they're making him their own character, which I think is really smart. Because what Marvel is that they stay true to the comics, but I like how DC's doing the approach. This is our project. There's comics, and we're going to base it off it, but we're going to make this our own.
Which is also really interesting because they are doing that more move, Marvel, to kind of branching out, like with Ultron and everything, a different origin story and everything. Like maybe not related to Ant-Man, which people are kind of excited about, but kind of worried. It seems like they're also taking their own take on it, which I'm really excited about too. But
I think the problem is throughout this whole thing, we've compared the two. In TV shows and stuff like that, you can, but when it comes down to the movies, they're completely different.
They're just polar opposites.
Because the DC movies, it's very rare when I start laughing during DC movies.
They're just, and I mean, I love both of them. Love them so much. Love them with a passion. But I mean, I've established them as different. I don't go into a DC movie expecting to have so many, giggles and laughs when in a Marvel movie you find more comedy. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that subtracts from DC or that adds to Marvel or that subtracts from, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just saying that both these companies are doing great jobs with their films, establishing them as different. And I think people just kind of need to, realize that these are not the same characters.
What DC has going for it is what Marvel had going for it. You're going in, you're pretty much starting a clean slate. I mean, you're getting these characters, and this, there's really nothing before it. The old Batman movies, those have nothing to do with it. The old Superman movies, those are separate. I mean, you sort of had the Dark Knight stuff, but not really, because it's a different Batman. So it has what Marvel had going for it. You're going in new stuff. You have a lot more ideas to go through, and I think, sure, some people may seem that they're rushing, but I think they just have so much stuff planned ahead that they're willing to take the risk of putting everything out maybe prematurely, and they're really confident, which is probably a great thing that they're confident enough just to throw Batman and Superman right in the beginning, because, you have the Justice League coming up, and that's going to be awesome. I mean, I don't care what you say. If there's a Justice League movie, it's going to make just as much, maybe even more, as the Avengers, because that was, the big thing, That was one of the first things you ever seen with superheroes coming together.
And then when you see, in my opinion, the older legends, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, Marvel was established with the help of DC in some way. In a weird way, if you know what I mean. So, it's kind of like DC's witnessing their younger brother excel, and I think DC's just kind of well, let's do our best. And I am excited to see what both cinematic universe how they're gonna play out and everything,
and the reason they're completely different is because Marvel's everything's been connected since they started. DC, nothing's connected right now. They just have Man of Steel, so that's really cool because they're completely different. DC's going as
it's like you're just watching Marvel again, but
yeah,
not the same up, but it's like the same situation, which is cool. And so we hope great things from both of them. Okay, so I think that wraps it up. That was good. So they're just doing good in each of their respective fields. Some more than others, but they're still doing good, which is great. So that was our discussion on Marvel vs. DC. Put down your thoughts in the comments below on who you think is doing better in those respective areas, and we really hope that we can get more videos to you guys soon and that you'll really enjoy them. Bye guys.